After years of collaboration and speaking directly to victims of domestic and gun violence, a much needed and highly anticipated center will break ground. Let's welcome Butch Kennedy. He's the founder of the Palmetto Hope Network, and Jessica Vernon, the organization's director of communications. Glad to have you both with us again.
Thank you.
So the need is still critical here in South Carolina to protect victims of domestic violence. Maybe you can talk a little bit about where we stand now. I mean, we've been talking about this subject for so long. So, Butch,
it's really sad because for the past 25 years, we've been in the top 10 states of men that murder women every year except for 2, and we're still here, right? So it is crazy, and we continue to work this issue, and we continue to try to make a difference and to have the stories shared and try to do whatever we can do to end violence against women.
Yeah, and you've been so committed to this mission, as have you, Jessica. And now we're looking at the opening of what's called a Navigational Center. So tell us a bit more about this, what it sets out to accomplish, because it's not to be confused with a shelter per se, but this is something entirely different.
Yeah, the idea for the Resource Center really came out of Palmetto Hope's work directly in the community and with other grassroots organizations that are providing services to victims, not just of domestic violence, but of gun violence as well, and the need for more efficiency in serving those victims after the trauma has occurred. And not just the victims themselves, but the family and all the different collateral victims within the community that witnessed the event or have been affected by the event.
Pretty traumatic.
Exactly. The Navigational Center will be a physical location where victims or their families can come and sit down with an advocate or a navigational specialist and then get referrals to the different wraparound services that they're going to need in their recovery process.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like? So I sit down, I speak to a specialist, and what are some of those wraparound services to be expected to start touching?
Well, so oftentimes the victims are receiving information from like the victim advocate that works with the police force, but that's often happening like almost immediately following the incident. And it's just not a time when you can really absorb that kind of information.
For sure, yeah.
So to be able to sit down in a calm space and get connected to the legal resources, the financial services, possibly the funeral arrangements, and then from there, mentoring services for any kids that are involved, housing, job opportunities, and then it expands out from there to clothing and food banks.
So it sounds like what it really starts off with is that acute attention that you need just to manage through the first few days and weeks. And then it expands into really looking down the road to the future and things that you need, and also just to sustain you as you make your progression to higher ground. So, Butch, I mean, you're tireless in your work. Your wife is tireless in her work as well. You're expanding your footprint of Palmetto Hope outside of Charleston and into Georgetown County.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Exactly, because some of the victims that we'll have here will be able to go to the Georgetown County shelter that we're working on right now. Like you said, me and my wife have been doing this for a while, and what we wanted to do was build something that when victims come there, they feel at home, right? They're comfortable, they're believed, right, and they're comforted. And that's really important to me, to make sure that our victims, when they come in, that they feel that love, right? Certainly. And that's the most important thing. And they feel that they're able to trust, right? So we've collaborated with a lot of different organizations. We'll have mental health there, we'll have legal there. We'll be able to do work with them on like orders of protection, stuff like that. And every now and again, law enforcement will be there as well to help them if they need any information from them as well. So we're partnering with a lot of different service providers, and today is like our call to action for service providers, right? We want the service providers to know that we're there. And if you provide services to victims of domestic violence, we want you to reach out to us so that we can add you to the list of service providers that we'll be referring clients to.
So indeed, this is a call to action. So for anyone's listening to this and they want to help, make sure you do reach out to Butch and Palmetto Hope. But I also want to talk about just addressing, typically when we think of domestic violence, we do think of women being the victims of domestic violence, but you work with men, Butch, to change the whole narrative, starting from very early on in childhood.
Right. I think it's a culture thing with men, and we as men are raised differently than women. And I think we talked about this earlier before, and we have the opportunity now to address those issues with other men and teach them, right, that it's okay to do certain things in life that we have been told previously coming up that it wasn't. Right. So I think I always like to say that as men, we've been hoodwinked, we've been bamboozled. Right. So we try to give men the opportunity, right, to be in a space where they are actually not judged, right? Non-judging space and allow them to actually be their authentic selves and to open up and have these serious conversations, not only about that.
And with a few seconds left, can you talk about some of those who have graduated from the experience of sitting down with you and in a group?
The greatest thing is the ones that graduated from me are some of my mentors now. So I get to see a lot of them, how they respond and they reflect and how they further the mission.
So change is always possible.
Change is always possible. Kids are amazing. They're resilient, right? Especially young men, they're resilient. We can be taught one thing, but we get back up and we fight.
I love that. Thank you so much for that, Butch. And thank you so much for your tireless work as well, Jessica. So we want to make sure that everybody realizes that you can make donations to Palmetto Hope. This is really important for us as a society to support our neighbors here. Thank you again for joining us, and congratulations on the $200,000 grant and buying the building in Georgetown County. This is wonderful news.
Worries.
Terrific. Thank you.
A grand opening announcement.
Can't wait. We're back after this.